Another year has been and gone, and what a year 2022 has been. Here at Team TripleJump, it's very much been a roller coaster 12 months, and while we've had plenty to celebrate, there have also been some pretty rough times too. This video is not about looking back though, as there is plenty of great stuff set to happen next year, or this year, depending on when you're watching this, including a bunch of video game releases that we simply cannot wait for. For today's list, we're here to share with you all of the games that we're itching to get our hands on that come out in 2023. We won't be including any games in this list that were in our 10 awesome games to look forward to in 2022 video, as although we are very much still looking forward to the likes of Starfield, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and Redfall, we spoke about them last year, and we want to avoid repeating ourselves. Also, as we've said previously, we're not clairvoyant, and although at the time of writing these games are all set to release in 2023, things do change and delays may happen. All nice and clear, then let's get to it. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 awesome games to look forward to in 2023. Number 10, Ark 2. Not all of us here at Team TripleJump are fans of the 2017 survival title Ark Survival Evolved, but there's one member of staff in particular that holds a certain fondness for the game and threatened to riot if we didn't put Ark 2 on this list.
Calm down, James, it's on there, I'm talking about it now, please put down the knife!
The sequel was announced at the Game Awards 2020 and is set to go into early access on PC and Xbox Series sometime in 2023, and yes, before you ask, it's coming to Game Pass. There hasn't been much information revealed about Ark 2 at the time of writing, but what we do know is that it will star Vin Diesel as the game's protagonist Santiago and Auli'i Cravalho as his daughter. The story takes place after the events of Genesis Part 2, which ends with the Genesis ship breaking in half, one part crashing into an alien planet and one of the Santiago clones awaking from stasis, so we can assume that Ark 2 will pick up from there. As it stands, Ark 2 doesn't have a confirmed release date, we just hope it's soon. James has run out of dinosaurs to tame and he's taken to trying to tame local cats instead. Number 9, Diablo 4. It's fair to say that Blizzard hasn't had the best couple of years, what with the ongoing sexual harassment scandal, the disastrous Diablo Immortal launch, and the less than stellar audience response to Overwatch 2. Still, the studio is famed for producing brilliant video games, and we're hoping that the third sequel to the outstanding Diablo will mark a return to form for the industry giant. Plot-wise, players can expect a direct sequel to Diablo 3. With the forces of angels and demons depleted following the events of the previous game, cultists are able to summon Lilith, the daughter of Mephisto, who seeks power over the realm of Sanctuary. The core gameplay, including procedurally generated dungeons and loot-based character building, are set to return, whilst new features, including an open world and player versus player, will be introduced. Diablo 4 was announced all the way back in 2019, but a 2023 release was only confirmed in June 2022. With that said, the game has already been delayed due to the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing versus Activision Blizzard lawsuit, and with the studio's legal issues ongoing, who knows if 2023 will be the year that players get to return to Sanctuary. Number 8, Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones is one of those games that seems like it's been in development forever, and if we're entirely truthful, we had given up hope of ever seeing it. However, it would seem that we were wrong to doubt developer Ubisoft Singapore, as the game has finally been given a release date. Admittedly, Skull and Bones was supposed to be released all the way back in 2018, and Ubisoft have since given 2019, sometime after March 2020, at least April 2021, some point between April 2022 and March 2023, and 8th of November 2022 as potential release dates. But we're confident that 9th of March 2023 is the one, assuming that Skull and Bones does make it to our consoles and or PCs in March 2023. Players will get to create their own customizable pirate captain before heading out into the open seas. There will be the option to play alone and follow the single-player campaign, or team up with 5 friends and take on other crews in PvP mode. The only downside is that it looks like you'll have to provide your own rum, but that's fine because I always keep a bottle on hand for such occasions. Hang on.
Where's the rum gone?
Number 7, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Thanks to Jared Leto, and yes, we are placing the blame squarely at his door, the Suicide Squad has gotten something of a bad reputation and not the sort that they'd enjoy. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad went some of the way to restoring the anti-heroes rep, and we're hoping that Rocksteady's upcoming action-adventure title Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will fully erase the damage that Leto did to the franchise. It's all your fault, Jared. Announced in 2020, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is set in the months following the events of Batman Arkham Knight and follows the titular Suicide Squad, a group of Arkham Asylum inmates, as they attempt to assassinate various members of the Justice League who have been brainwashed by supervillain Brainiac. That means that players will need to square up to the likes of Superman, the Flash, and Green Lantern to stop them before they can destroy Metropolis and the rest of the world. Originally, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was scheduled for release in 2022, but director Sefton Hill confirmed in March 2022 that the game was delayed until spring 2023. Once it does release, it will be available for the current gen and PC, so if you haven't already, you'd best hunt down a PS5 or Xbox Series. Number 6. Assassin's Creed Mirage. Over the years, the Assassin's Creed series has had its ups and downs, but in recent times it's been enjoying a degree of success thanks to the outstanding Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. It's been over 2 years since a new entry has been released though, and I don't know about you, but I'm itching to get my parkour on. My real-life attempts have been less than successful. The good news is that Ubisoft Bordeaux are hard at work on Valhalla's follow-up, Assassin's Creed Mirage. The game will mostly be set in 9th century Baghdad and will star Basim ibn Ishaq, a character who players will recognise from their time as a Viking. Unlike the most recent AC titles, Mirage is set to go back to the series' roots, reducing the number of role-playing elements and giving players a more linear, story-focused experience. At the time of writing, an exact release date hasn't been confirmed by the studio, though with that said, the previous 3 Assassin's Creed titles have all been released in October or November, so it's possible that we'll be able to get our shank on sometime in the autumn. I just hope to God there's no more bloody sailing. Number 5. Dead Space Remake. Oh yeah, here we go, spooks time! The original Dead Space was released all the way back in 2008 and centered on protagonist Isaac Clarke as he attempted to navigate a spaceship overrun by terrifying monsters, all whilst battling his own fractured psyche. Dead Space received tons of praise from critics for everything from its atmosphere to its gameplay and is considered to be one of the best video games of all time. Whilst the OG Dead Space is still perfectly serviceable, it is getting on a bit, but luckily for fans of sci-fi survival horror, it's getting a ground-up remake courtesy of developer Motive Studio and publisher EA. The plot is remaining much the same, but the Dead Space remake is being built in EA's Frostbite engine with all new assets, character models, and environments. Basically, it's the Dead Space we all know and love, just a bit fancier. Fortunately, players don't have to wait too long to get their hands on the spookums, because Dead Space is set to release on current-gen consoles, i.e. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series, as well as PC on January the 27th, 2023. If there's one thing that's sure to get rid of those post-Christmas blues, it's being attacked by necromorphs. Number 4. Final Fantasy XVI. It's been over 6 years since Final Fantasy fans have gotten a new installment in the action role-playing franchise, and frankly, we're sick of waiting. We want more Final Fantasy, and we want it now, or at least in the next 12 months. Thankfully, there's no need for anyone to riot, as Final Fantasy XVI is set to hit PlayStation 5s at some point in summer of 2023. I suppose if you don't have a PlayStation 5, you could probably justify a riot. The game is set in Valistia and follows protagonist Clive Rosfield, the firstborn child of the Archduke of Rosaria, as he embarks on a quest for revenge. Central to the plot are icons, summoned monsters that can be controlled by humans known as dominants, one of whom is Clive's younger brother Joshua. Whilst Clive is Final Fantasy XVI's central character, he won't be the only one joining players on their missions, as they'll be accompanied by various different AI-controlled party members. The bad news for those of you who have, thus far, been unable to get your hands on a PS5 is that Final Fantasy XVI is a timed exclusive, and though it will eventually be released on other platforms, there's currently no word as to when that will be. Number 3. The Wolf Among Us 2. When Telltale Games closed its doors in 2018, players thought that they'd seen the last of the studio's brilliant episodic adventure titles. Thankfully, LGC Entertainment were able to swoop in and acquire the rights to many of the original Telltale IPs, and they announced in 2019 that they would be bringing many of the old titles back, starting with a sequel to The Wolf Among Us, which was released throughout 2013 and 2014. Like its predecessor, The Wolf Among Us 2 will be an episodic narrative-focused title and serves as a sequel to the original game, taking place 6 months after the events of The Wolf Among Us. Whilst we don't know all that much about The Wolf Among Us 2, if the quality of the OG title is anything to go by, then we can be certain that we're in for a wonderful time. At the time of writing, The Wolf Among Us 2 is slated for release at some point in 2023, though exactly when is currently unknown. Still, it's been a good while since we've gotten to play a Telltale game, and nearly a decade since we last got an episode of The Wolf Among Us, so a few more months' wait won't hurt. Number 2. Alan Wake 2. Cliffhanger endings are a bit of a double-edged sword, aren't they? On the one hand, it's nice to be able to theorize about what happens next and come up with your own conclusions, but also they can leave us feeling somewhat unfulfilled. It's been over 10 years since the release of Alan Wake, and for much of that time we've been wondering just what on earth would become of the titular Alan. Well, that wait is almost over, as Alan Wake 2 is set to release for Xbox Series, PlayStation 5 and PC in 2023. As it stands, developer Remedy Entertainment is keeping many of Alan Wake 2's secrets closely guarded, so when it comes to the game's plot, we're more or less in the dark. However, what we do know is that the sequel's gameplay will be more survival horror than its predecessor, and the player won't need to have played the original or any of its DLCs for that matter in order to understand what's going on. Currently, we don't know on exactly what date in 2023 Alan's adventures will continue. Oh well, at least we have Alan Wake Remastered to keep us busy in the meantime. Number 1. Resident Evil 4 Remake. When it was released in 2005, Resident Evil 4 took the world by storm. Unlike its predecessors, which were survival horror through and through, Resident Evil 4 added more action into the mix, giving players plenty of what they loved about the first 3 games in the series whilst opening it up to a wider audience with more dynamic gunplay. These days, though, the game is starting to show signs of age, and though the original RE4 is still very much playable, its controls, camera, and graphics could definitely do with a tune-up. Thankfully, Capcom have been going a bit remake mad recently, releasing Resident Evil 2 Remake in 2019 and Resident Evil 3 Remake in 2020, and players have been speculating when, if ever, RE4 will be getting a glow-up. In June 2020, Capcom announced after years of rumours that the remake was indeed on its way and that it will be released in March 2023. Naturally, the graphics will be modernised and the gameplay is set to be brought in line with the RE2 and 3 remakes. Plus, the story, which follows fan favourite Leon S. Kennedy as he attempts to rescue the president's daughter from a parasite-worshipping cult, is being reimagined with a darker tone. That all sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it? And you know what? I don't know that I can wait until March. I need it now. So, looks like I'm playing through 2 and 3 again.